Candace Owens is going hyper viral for her take on what actually happened to Charlie Kirk, but there's another take.
Candace Owens, don't worry about the gag order in the Charlie Kirk case. I plan to violate it on the world's behalf. The things I've discovered this past week are enough to burn the house down. Yes, Charlie was betrayed by everyone. Dun, dun, dun. And then she disappears for 2 weeks. I love Candace.
You're not worried that she's going full conspiracy.
What is full conspiracy?
Let's define it. They don't have an internal map for how to judge whether something is plausible or merely intriguing. I think that Candace is seeing patterns where they don't exist. There's a big difference for me between somebody like Joe Rogan, who enjoys conspiracies but feels very tethered to reality, and somebody like Alex Jones, who, even though he really does find a lot of this early stuff, if you watch his channel, literally every day is World War III, and everything is a conspiracy. Candace has sort of marched her way out of the journalist box that I had her in my mind, over into the I see patterns where patterns don't exist conspiracy theory box. I worry that she isn't using an internal rubric with which to anchor herself to say, okay, these things probably aren't true. She can make a wild claim and produce receipts, but then another person can come along with receipts that counter it. I've got that internal metric by which I judge things, and so I make my decisions based on that. It feels like Candace has lost that. She doesn't, or maybe never had, but she doesn't have anything that she comes back to and says, like I say, I know better than to trust myself 100%. Just blanket. So I think I have all the receipts. I still don't trust myself 100%. She trusts herself 1,000%. And I cannot figure out how life has taught anybody that that's the right thing to judge things by.
So to me, like, there's so much political goodwill that came from Charlie Kirk's death. There's so much political benefits that happen from it. Even if it's 1% of me, I do have a certain level of suspicion to how clean it was.
Admittedly, when I craft a deep dive, I'm writing from a very specific angle and I'm saying these are the things that I believe to be true. But I know those are constellations. When you look up at the sky, you really do see stars. The constellations are made up, but the constellations help you navigate. Oh, these are made up, but they're useful. Then if you start over-indexing on these are so useful that I'm going to forget that they're made up, you run into trouble. And that's how you end up crashing. This is useful, but its utility is going to be limited by the fact that it is made up. And so I want to get closer and closer to truth. I feel like these guys are getting stuck because it's so lucrative from a YouTube perspective. They're getting stuck in the constellation of it all instead of realizing those are just approximations. Start drilling down even deeper and really start fact checking and getting to the truth. Being on the ground and reporting from the ground, I think adds a ton of credibility. Now, I don't know if Candace has. It's possible she has, but I think that's a pretty important takeaway here. We don't know what the truth is yet. He's got a counterpoint to all of Candace's claims, and I found it very interesting that they sound plausible as well. I'm not saying he's right and Candace is wrong. I think people are right to question this stuff. I think people are right to think for themselves. But one thing that I have found extraordinarily useful in my life is once I have a belief about something, the economy, inflation, all that, I want to go find people that are like, no, this is all good. And I want to hear what they have to say. I want to understand what the argument is on the other side. If you can't argue the other person's side, you don't understand very much of it. I think a lot of times people build their entire frame of reference because they go down one path with one person that they trust. They build a worldview. They just parrot back what that person is telling them, but they're not actually building up from cause and effect. So you don't want to put yourself in the echo chamber where you're just hearing the thing you want to hear all day. You want to find the people that say the exact opposite thing that you believe. But if you force yourself to go outside of that, you can really begin to make your worldview useful. You want to find what is true, thinking up from first principles, thinking of the world through the lens of physics. The big thing I'm like, not enough people are talking about for me is that his shirt like puffs up right before he gets hit. And so what they're saying is that that's they just keep, I believe the word they keep using is concavity, that's the essentially what I'm imagining to be the air moving around it as the bullet is coming towards him. And so the disturbance in the air, I guess, hits him before the bullet actually hits him. He goes in Discord and essentially admits to the crime. This is not somebody who was like, oh, I'm definitely going to get away with this. It feels more and more like this was somebody who did it. They were prepared to be a martyr. They wanted to make sure that nobody else got in trouble for this. That seems like a very plausible read.
Aluminum foil hats are very out right now. They're calling this just another dude on the internet talking.
So rather than dismiss the arguments by saying he's just another guy on the internet, show me how the things that he's saying don't make sense. Because if there's a breakdown in the logic, fair enough. Could it be that the government is involved in this? Like, that seems wild, but okay, maybe. But when I hear another plausible explanation, I'm like, oh, that's also very plausible. And if I'm honest, is Occam's razor. It's the most simple answer and therefore is the most likely to be true. If I had to put a front runner of, I need an answer for why those texts don't feel right. Now I have an answer that fits Occam's razor better, does not require there to be some big conspiracy. Watching that interview, I was like, oh, this guy puts together things. I didn't know that they found like scrape marks that potentially match a weapon being behind him. When he jumped down, I didn't notice the gray towel, but people are saying, no, if you really freeze frame it, you can see that there's like a gray towel behind him, that he at least claimed that the gun was wrapped in a towel. And I believe the authorities have confirmed that they found it in a towel. Then, okay, it does seem to be a thing that could potentially be a towel. And they see scrape marks that this guy at least is saying he saw with his own eyes, that, okay, it's even got a ruler next to it or a tape measure. So you can see how long the scrape is. So it's potential, certainly not definitive at this point, but it gives you the ability to think through the arguments, again, just from first principles. Like, could this be plausible? If it can be plausible, then how exactly are we ruling it out? So I'm not saying that this isn't a conspiracy. I'm just saying there are other plausible arguments that are being put forward, and it's a little premature to leap to, oh, 100% because Charlie Kirk said that he's going to stop being pro-Israel, that he was killed by the Jews.